There's more than one way to produce a multiverse. The idea of multiple universes comes up in different ways in physics. So a whole different way that's completely independent from fine-tuning has to do with quantum mechanics. So there's an interpretation of quantum mechanics, the Everettian or many worlds interpretation that says when you have certain quantum fluctuations, what we used to think of in the older Copenhagen interpretation as the collapse of the wave function. It's a random event. Produces different sorts of outcomes. Let's try Schrodinger's cat as an example. So the idea is there's this room, and we set up, and there's a cat in the room, and the situation is such that the cat, depending on how the experiment plays out, the cat will either live or it will die. And it all depends on quantum mechanics. It depends on a certain quantum mechanical event, what happens. Okay, so on the standard Copenhagen interpretation, when someone observes what's happening in the room, the wave function collapses and the cat becomes instantaneously either alive or dead. Well, in the many worlds interpretation, actually both things happen. It's just that they happen in their own worlds, in their own universes. So actually there really is no, well, I should say, there is a collapse of the wave function. But when that happens, all the possibilities that are inherent in the wave function, captured in the wave function, become real in their own worlds. So this is a different way of generating multiple universes. This is independent of fine-tuning. Philosopher Dean Zimmerman has a short paper that says if that's the sort of reality we live in, well, there's a worry. There's a worry that some of these worlds that are being produced by all these quantum collapse events, again, many worlds, some of those are going to be really bad in the sense that it's going to produce a world where there's vastly more suffering than there is in this present world. Because again, all the possibilities become actual somewhere out there in physical reality. And so potentially you could have a zombie universe. You just think of all your favorite science fiction events, science fiction movies. You have a zombie world, or the humans are running for the zombies. We're running from dinosaurs. There's lots of disease. There's all sorts of ways things could be really, really bad, right? A lot worse than they are in the actual universe. So the worry then is if that's the sort of reality we live in, that makes what philosophers call the problem of evil a lot worse. So the notion of the problem of evil is that if God is all-knowing and all-powerful and all-good, how is it that there's evil at all, right? You would think that a perfectly good God would do something, maybe intervene to stop evil, natural disasters and the like. So that's a standard problem, and again, any intro to philosophy class, you're going to address that problem. It's an ongoing problem in the philosophy of religion. And what Dean says is, and I think this is pretty intuitive, if we live in a many worlds universe, and they evolve in all sorts of ways, all sorts of imaginable ways, some of the worlds that will be produced are what my co-author Ennis Stocco calls Evilverses. These are universes that are just a lot worse than our actual universe. Well, if those exist, if that's part of God's creation, then it looks like that makes the problem of evil a lot worse, because now we not only have to account for the sort of evil that exists in this world, we have to account for why God would allow Evilverses, zombie universes and all those. So that makes it a lot harder for philosophers trying to come up with an explanation of evil. Now you have to explain not just regular evil. It's bad enough, right? Normal evil, that's tough. If you have to explain, why God would allow zombie universe, that's going to make it a lot harder. Okay, so that's the problem, that's the challenge. And part of what we're doing here in this conference, what Professor Doko and I are working on, is trying to show that actually if we live in this sort of Everettian world, and this is the way multi-worlds are being produced, it's actually narrowly constrained. That really you're not going to ever get a zombie universe, and that actually most of the universes that are going to be produced are relevantly similar to our own. That it's not anything goes in this sort of many worlds interpretation. That the types of you have to bring in some higher order physics, things that like condensed matter theory and stuff like that, which is highly technical. Ennis is a physicist, so he's keeping all the science stuff straight. But it actually it's pretty well constrained, and actually you're not going to get the variety of really bad universes that we tend to imagine when we think of many worlds or multiple universes.